That is a lot of coyotes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a cool 50-something degree winter day here in Metro Atlanta. And I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. Since the weather is not fantastic for snakes, it's only in the 50s. They're not out of the possibility, but they're definitely, I'm not expecting to see any. Especially considering what I'm doing, I am checking out a new park that I have never been to. And the main goal of today's video is just going to be to give you guys some insight about how I find new spots. As you can see, there's a nice seepage here. One of the things that I was looking at on the map of this park that made me think that it might be good is it looks like it has a lot of small lakes and ponds on it. I mostly want to get over and check out those, but there is this nice seepage right here I'm going to start out in. Flip this log real quick, and we're going to see if there's anything around. The log was mostly floating, but stuff down here looks pretty good. I see a bunch of movement in it. I just can't tell what it is. Frogs, I'm assuming. Some crayfish burrows. Yeah, I'm gonna work this seepage for a minute, and if I see anything, I'll definitely let y'all know. But there's not too many logs to flip. It doesn't look that great, but definitely decent. So there's that seepage we were just walking, and it kind of pops out on this power line cut, which has a really nice little edge here. These super nice, well-lit edges are the perfect places for snakes to bask, even on winter days like today. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if we saw a garter snake or something out catching some rays along this super open, exposed wood edge. It gets a lot of sun. And it's the transition between these two habitats. There's kind of this pine forest, really more than two habitats, in the open power line cut. And then you get like the hardwood creek bottom over there. So this part isn't fantastic, but it could potentially have like corn snakes and hognoses. They don't seem to mind this kind of old planted pine type stuff. This is not really reminiscent of what it's supposed to look like here, but I'm guessing this was an old timber plantation that the city bought to turn into a green belt. And I think in a couple of years, if they maintain the property, it could end up being really cool. But right now it's just kind of super shaded and not very diverse in terms of vegetation at this point in time. Well, look at that, our first herp that we've actually gotten a good look at. And it's a reptile, a nice green anole. Normally, I think these guys are pretty good indicators of snake activity, but they definitely are a little bit more cold tolerant, and there's a lot more of them. So I'm not going to say that seeing one anole is a good sign that snakes are out today, but it's better than no reptiles. And a couple of logs over, our next herp, a nice little northern slimy salamander. Obviously, both these species we've seen so far are very common, but it is nice to actually be seeing some herps out here, especially since it's mid-December. So this would probably be a pretty nice creek if it wasn't for one specific thing. And that one thing is these stupid bushes right here. This is Chinese privet, highly invasive. And you can see all of that thick stuff right there that's kind of clouding out the canopy, not letting any sunlight through. That's a privet. And it's damn near impossible to get rid of. And it clouds out, shades out environments that would otherwise be good habitat for snakes. Not to mention it's ugly, and it makes it hard to walk through the habitat because it grows. This side isn't too bad. You can see this is nice and open. But that side is infested with privet. You can see the difference. It's kind of cool. That doesn't look terribly safe. Can't believe they don't have this thing roped off. Look at that. There's steel beam under my feet right now, but that stuff is completely unsupported. Kind of makes you wonder though, like what was this for? Was this an old railroad bed or what? Check this out. This is a super cool beaver wetland. You can tell it's beaver because all the trees on the edge are gnawed down. But I'm kind of surprised there's no turtles out. Normally, if it's above freezing, there's turtles sitting on the logs in this type of habitat. But really cool. Even if we don't end up seeing anything today, this is a really cool little area. And I don't know how often I'll end up coming out here, but it's nice to know what it's like. And I've still got a little bit more to check, so I'm gonna keep working this habitat until I end up back at the car. That is a lot of coyotes. Holy crap. I'm assuming that's coyotes. What on earth? Ow! What on earth? That's crazy. I never like hear or see coyotes when I'm just walking around in the woods. That's wild. Ow! Ow! I'm gonna call them over here if I'm not careful. I'm gonna keep moving. Love me a good predator encounter. Ooh. Beaver evidence. Look at that. Stick is gnawed perfectly. Look at this habitat. That is so cool. And there's more beaver evidence. Look at that. You can see how these beavers, they've completely changed how this lake functions and created this crazy looking swampy margin here, which could potentially be habitat for snakes such as cottonmouths and mud snakes, which are quite rare in this area, especially mud snakes. I mean, they're basically non-existent. But, I mean, that looks like as good a place as any for them. So I'm still kind of following this beaver wetland. It's kind of turning into a more typical closed canopy creek right here. Look at that leaf pack. Kind of makes me wish I brought my dip net along. There's a lot of leaves in there. But the point I was trying to make is a lot of times if you follow these types of wetlands to their source, it's some sort of seepage, which can be good for salamanders. So I'm gonna see if I can find where this comes out. That's what we've been looking for. Now watch, it's not gonna have anything under it, but that is a perfectly positioned log. All right, come on, Manders. Oh, yep, sure enough, there's a nice dusky salamander. Well, once again, it's nothing to write home. It's nothing to write home about, but nice. Whoa, nice little spotted dusky salamander. He was very eager to get on his way. He's actually still right here. Oh, there we go. You can see him a little better. All right, guys, I'm back home right now. I think I'm gonna spend the rest of the day setting up some flip spots here at the house like I do every winter. I've got a bunch of stuff here that I'm trying to get out and so I can start collecting more materials. Because a lot of this stuff's kind of and I don't really want to drive it somewhere and put it out. Like this stuff here, I haven't even really found anything under the pieces I've set out so far, but I do think it has a lot of potential, so I just have to figure out where to put it. It's basically a piece of insulating wall. It's got this nice dense stuff in it, so it stays nice and cool. Really good summertime flipping, I think, and it's pretty dense too. It absorbs a little bit of moisture. So I'm gonna go find somewhere here at the house to put this thing, and I will explain my decision as to where I put it and why, in case you guys are wondering. So the problem I have with this material is, since it's got this kind of styrofoam in the middle, it floats. So normally I would put this somewhere near water, but there's not really anywhere to anchor it because I think this would make pretty good mud snake cover. But without drilling a hole and tying a string to it, there's not really any way to anchor it to make sure it stays in place since it'll float. And because it's got this tin on both sides, it holds a lot of moisture. You can see there's a lot of moisture collecting just from where I had it sitting. And that is not the best for snakes, at least out east. Now maybe if you live in the Great Plains where it's a little more arid, or even in the Southwest, I think this material would be perfect in a more arid environment, but here it just stays soggy. So I think the best way to get around that issue is going to be to put it somewhere where it gets a lot of sun. So we're gonna go look for somewhere super open and sunny. So here's a couple of the things that I already have out. I know you guys see me flip this stuff all the time, but just to show you a little bit what I mean, this is a board. These also hold a lot of moisture. And here's one of these things, just so you can see how it's weathering. Pretty similar to the board. You can see there's a lot of moisture under there, but there is this nice dry spot here where there's a little bit of a space. But in anywhere where these are going to be flat to the ground, they're going to hold a lot of moisture. So I still haven't found anything under this one, but you can kind of see it's weathering nicely. There's a lot of nice burrows under it, which was kind of the goal. The initial thing I was hoping for is that these would be good for mole kings, so that's going to be the hope for this one when I find somewhere to put it. And of course, I think it was 2019 or 2020, we got a mole king under that sheet of 10, and I put this right here in hopes that it would kind of create a couple more flips for mole kings. This particular corner of my yard has super loamy soil. You can see you can just dig into it with your hand even, and that is exactly what you want for burrowing snakes of any kind, really. King snakes, mole kings, hog noses, pine snakes. Almost any snake really is going to benefit from having that loamy soil where the rodents can burrow and even the snakes can burrow, just because this stuff is so loose and rich. I'm not going to flip everything in the house today, but I am going to check this tin that's in the sun, just because, oh, see, that's why. The lizards are out. I flipped one of my other sets and it had a couple ground skinks. That was in a knoll. We're going to see if there's any snakes out. It's not looking like it under this set today. So with tin, there's usually at least a little bit of space underneath it. But because this thing is so flat, because it doesn't really have any real corrugation, you can see, I mean, it's ever so slightly bowed in right there, but not enough space for a big snake to get under. I'm thinking about putting this right here where there's all these vines. You can see this is probably muscadine, I think, and that will create a little bit of space under there, and it might make it a bit of a pain to flip if it gets overgrown, but I think I'm going to put this right here, or maybe on the edge right there so it's not completely covered in vines. But nice open patch here, perfect for mole kings. All right, this board's getting decent sun, but it is a board, so it's, oh, spotted salamander. We've been doing really well with the spotted salamanders under our cover this year. Check that guy out. That is a handsome dude right there. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at those spots on the side. He's got the yellow spots and then he's got some white spots. Super nice. Love it when they get those oranger spots on their head too. That's so cool. And look at that. He's got some weird, super uniform spotting right there. They're so evenly spaced. What a critter. All right, bud. Back under your board. Glad you're getting some use out of my my mole king boards that never have mole kings under them. Go on. There we go. For those that are curious, this is my 10 stash at home. I've probably got, I don't know, 100 sheets here in total. This stuff's all stacked up. I'm gonna put these out right now. But lots of little pieces, lots of scraps, full siding, small pieces, and these are like the kind of more intact, where it's got more life in them pieces that aren't super rusted. I mean, they're rusted, but they don't have the flimsiness that super rusted tin gets. So all that's good stuff that I'm gonna put out somewhere eventually. What on earth? There's another spotted. This is under a piece that I have kind of out down here near where that corn snake was. but it's not very well placed. I've never even found a snake under it, but I think that's the first herp I found under it. Well, we might not see any snakes, but at least we saw a couple of nice spotted salamanders here at home today. They were both that same age class we've been seeing a lot of on the road as well. The yearling, probably born around New Year's last year. Maybe 2 years old. I'm not positive how fast these guys grow, but I'm assuming it's pretty fast. So anyways, I'm just gonna leave this guy to it and continue carrying this 10 down to where I'm gonna place it. All right, this is getting a little ridiculous. There's another spotted and a slimy. You can tell how seldom I flip this thing based on how much pine straw was accumulated on top. Whoa. But there's this guy, nice little slimy salamander. I'll leave him to it. Go in the hole. Go on. Whoop. The salamander chute. All right. So that corn snake we found on the driveway back in mid-November was about right here. And I'm setting up this little stack of tin over here. This hillside is mostly northeast facing, so really could not be worse for tin placement, because you want to put your stuff where it's going to get the most sun. But I think this little spot right here will get decent sun. There's a nice clearing, big dead pine tree above it. Nothing's blocking out the sun right there, so I think this is going to be a decent spot. There's lots of sticks, and this dead pine tree is very possibly a place that corn snake spends a lot of time, because dead pine trees are kind of their jam. But yeah, let's set this stuff up right here. So I've got 3 sheets, 2 of which are basically complete, and the bottom one's a little more incomplete. So what I'll probably do is put the smaller sheet at the bottom or in the middle, because you don't want it at the top really. All right, I've got the bottom sheet placed so that end is touching the ground, and there's a little space right here where a bigger snake could get under there. And then we're just gonna take probably this little busted up piece. We're gonna throw this there. So you got a nice layer there. Move this out of the way. We'll put these on top to weight it down while it's weathering. So this tin was on a roof for a long time, so the top part's rusted, the bottom part's fine. So we're gonna expose the rust, we're gonna protect the rusted part with the non-rusted part, put the rusted side facing down so that all the leaves that fall on top of this tin will corrode the stronger metal before it corrodes that weaker stuff that's already rusted. Don't know if that makes sense or not, but it makes sense in my head, so that's what we're gonna do. A lot of people clear out the underside. I know I've talked about this before. I do not. I do like to weight it down and put stuff on top of it, just because this metal will kind of form to itself a little bit better and the layers will form to each other nicely. But that's a pretty good looking stack in my opinion. I'll probably set up a couple more in this little area, maybe one right here along this edge over the course of the winter, or even over by this thing. Anytime you get a nice push up of dirt like this, there's a good chance it could have plenty of holes in it and underground access, which is good for snakes. So, all right, in this little corner of the yard, right by the driveway, I don't have any tin down here, and I think this little edge right here looks pretty good. So I'm gonna put these 2 pieces out right in here. All right, I like how this looks. This is also northeast facing exposure, but we've got the whole sky above, so it's not going to be too big of an issue, I don't think, especially during the warmer months. So I'm just going to leave these right here for now, and we'll let them weather. We might end up moving them again, but for now, I think I'm just going to let them weather and see what they do. All right, I think this is going to be the last flip of the day. We'll wrap this video up. As you can see, I haven't flipped this in a couple weeks. Lots of leaves on top. I'm guessing if we see anything, it's going to be another salamander, but it's fine by me. It's actually nice and dry under this one, comparatively. But it doesn't look like there's anybody here. All right, everyone. Well, I think I'm gonna wrap this one up here. I'm gonna try to get more videos out, even if they don't have a ton of snakes in them, because I am doing a lot this time of year, even if it doesn't seem like it, because I'm not posting as much, but I'm very busy doing prep work for next spring. So I'm gonna try to show a little bit more of that over the next couple weeks. I'll be checking out a lot of new spots, setting up new flip sites. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully, if you're new to herping, this helped a little bit and gave some insight, or even if you just are curious as to what on earth I'm doing with my time and the thought process and kind of behind the scenes of my videos. This has pretty much been what it is from the time I woke up this morning until right now when it's starting to get dark. We have a lot of warm, wet weather coming our way in the next couple of days, so I wanted to go ahead and get this out of the way today, so that over the next couple of days I can spend as much time in the field as possible. So lots of rain coming. Hopefully there will be lots of salamander action, and maybe even a little bit of snake action too if the sun pops out and it stops raining long enough. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.